Hi everyone, it's a beautiful day here in London. I'm just waiting to be joined by Timothy Chooi, who is in Philadelphia, I think. So he is a few hours behind me, but I know he's awake because I've checked. So he will be joining us momentarily, and we're going to hopefully talk about all things to do with the violin and more, I guess, all about maybe violin competitions, things like that. So any questions, please do pop them into the comments you have, because it will be great to have some kind of engagement from you guys. And I'm sure there are lots of questions you want to know about what it's like to be such a young violinist in these days. Hi Eloise. And yeah, so hopefully he should be joining us any moment now. He's you know, we ran through the little things about how to get onto a live chat, but I'm not seeing him yet, so I shall carry on talking about him. Okay, he has joined, so let's see. Now Timmy, you can ask to be part of this video and then we can get going. Here we go. View. So fingers crossed that we're going to have a London Philadelphia chat. So only 5 hours difference. Hey! God,
Hi, Maxine.
there's only just about room for your hair there.
Yeah, I need a haircut.
Impressive. It's crazy.
It's growing. It's growing a lot. Yeah. How are you doing, Maxine?
I'm good. It's lovely to see you. You know, I've been wondering how you've been, so it's good that we get a chance to catch up, and also I can just find out what you've been up to. But are you in Philly at the moment?
I'm in Philly right now, and it's really hot.
Yeah, it's quite hot here today as well.
Yeah? Yeah,
Well,
it's crazy because I remember when everything started, it was still midwinter, and then suddenly it's already like going into I'm ready for winter to happen again.
it's too hot for you, is it?
It's too
Well,
hot, yeah.
yeah, I think summers in cities are always, it's a bit kind
Mm,
of, it's all right when you're on holiday to be
mm,
hot, but when you're actually just, yeah, in a city environment,
yeah.
it just feels a bit like, oh, I know, it's so crazy, isn't it? When you think that it all started, we were still kind of, in coats, and
Uh-huh,
it was
uh-huh.
getting dark early, and now it's just changed so much. But what have you done with your time? How have you kind of spent your time? You must have
Hmm.
just seen so many concerts and things just kind of fall away. So how have you
Mhm.
dealt with some of that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think every day it's a different perspective that I have. At the very beginning, it was in some ways I was it was kind of like, okay, this is a pandemic and we've got to respect that. And it's very important that public safety has to be first. So to take the safe route is to cancel. Uh, I think that started to change, especially when it was getting into summertime, into June. And then, of course, it started to hit me a little bit more. I think it was the sense that, oh, now things are being canceled until October. And then now things are getting canceled until December. And then pretty soon things are going to be canceled until March. So then, I mean, public safety for me in my mind is still very number one, but also just starting to understand the reality of how things are going to go forward, so I think is a little bit quite mind-boggling. So in my mind, I've just tried to spend my time really to practice. It's actually harder in some ways. At the beginning, it was quite easy to start a focused regimen because I remember that when I first started, I didn't have so much time to practice during the past year. So I took this time to really, like, oh, I can start the third sonata by Bach, the fugue, and just learn that. And I did that, and I learned a Paganini Caprice, and I did all that, and learned two concertos. But now it's like,
What next?
okay, now what's next? And also just trying to keep that momentum going on. And I feel like one thing I've noticed that once you start to let yourself go in one aspect, it becomes the norm. So I remember there was one period of time when I was like, I used to wake up very early. I used to wake up around 7, which I think is early for people around my peers.
Yeah.
But I started waking up at 9. I was like, this is just like, one day off, and then it became 5 days off, and now it's like the 5th week where I'm waking up at 10 now. So now it's harder to get back into that routine. So yeah, just kind of understanding how our minds are really swayed very easily into habit. I think it's one way that I've been starting to use my time a little bit, just to see, good habits don't come so easy. Bad habits come very easily and become the norm.
Yeah, I think that's true. Because I think at one point you were putting some practice videos up, which I was really impressed at. I thought, wow, that's, to actually show some of your practice is amazing. But I think I agree. What happened for me at the beginning as well, after the initial 2-week shock, where I didn't play at all. But I think it's quite important, isn't it, to have because I said to myself, right, you're not getting up later than 9, because then it's a really dangerous, slippery slope. And I thought I will practice every weekday morning, do the kind of to just feel like I was on some kind of schedule, because otherwise you just see this endless time and you feel a bit depressed, because you know that you've probably been working for, and you've kind of timed to peak at things have just fallen away. So did you sort of practice things that are coming up, say, in another season, or did you just pick things that you just thought, I want to play what I like?
At the beginning, I started preparing for things that were going to be programmed later in the season. So when all this started, I thought it was going to, maybe I was very naive, and a lot of the people that I was mixing with, I guess, was also very naive. We thought that maybe things might start back by June.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The same here. Yeah, we all thought as an orchestra, it was like, mid-May we'll see each other again, no big deal kind of thing.
Yeah, but obviously that's not happening. So at first, when I first started, I was supposed to play the Albenberg violin concerto in the very last week of May. So I started learning that, and then quickly I realized I was being canceled. But also I kind of pushed myself to finish learning it. I mean, it's not to the point where I'd just be able to replace someone to play it at this point. But I think that if it were to be programmed in the future, I would definitely be able to say yes at that point without any hesitations. So at the beginning, it started being, so I had a concert in Europe here. It was supposed to be the Mozart Sonata, which I've never learned before, so I learned that. And then it became Prokofiev Concerto, which was supposed to be happening later in the season. And then I realized, okay, that's all being canceled. So now I got to prioritize on what kind of pieces of violin literature should I be actually learning at this point that I might not ever have this chunk of time to dedicate and to not have the pressure to perform it. So I started learning the Beethoven Concerto again and the Brahms, which I've never actually touched. And I'm still working on that actually right now. And so at this point now I realize, like, there are some pieces of works that I can really, that I can learn with myself, with self-guidance. And there are some other pieces that I really need help with. And I do still have online Zoom lessons with my mentor / teacher, Catherine Cho. And she has been helping me learn these pieces throughout the weeks of the pandemic.
Wow, that's amazing. And how have you found it across Zoom? Has it worked quite well across Zoom?
It's difficult. I think that we've been really doing a good job. So I remember I first played my lesson, and she's like, I can't hear a lot of stuff, but I can still hear intonation. Yeah, so in that sense, I think it's also because the sound is so hard, it actually forces, so I also teach a bunch of students, so I have to really be careful because there's only so much time that we have on Zoom, and half the times we're scrambling of like, how are we going to listen to each other? But you got to be really concise with the things you have to say, because nonverbal communications is very limited at that point, which I think in a real live session, facial expressions, tone of voice, all of that is all being much more boiled down. So it teaches us to be receptive, I think, a lot quicker. And also yet to, if we're teaching, to be able to say our words very concisely and succinct. So,
Yeah.
so that's how I've been approaching not only just learning what types of repertoire, but also my lessons online. So the two of them have been working together, learning pieces like the Brahms Concerto and the Bach sonatas, which in the past I realized it almost feels like I'm back in high school because I never
go. You're only 20.
I guess so. But I guess the idea of high school was that it wasn't really my profession at the time, but I had to learn these pieces and there was no real pressure to perform them. And now I look back, those were the pieces that today I feel the most comfortable performing because I had this chunk of time to learn, like the Mendelssohn Concerto, the Bruch Violin Concerto. I learned those when I was like 12, 13, 14. And they kept, the reason why I think they're so solid is because I was able to practice them every single day and not have a rushed schedule, but a consistent one. So that's, with some pieces what's one concerto exactly that I can think? Like the Bach sonatas, the second Bach sonata that I've used for every single competition, every audition. I learned that when I was 15. And I got to be honest, I never feel comfortable to play another Bach sonata because I've never had that same amount of concentration of time to dedicate to. So I'm hoping that getting out of this, I'll be able to play at least one more Bach composition to feel at least somewhat comfortable to perform on stage and to offer rather than just going back to the default of what I've learned in the past.
Yeah, because in a way, I think we have to look at it as a kind of a gift of time. I mean, it's rubbish for everyone, financially and so bad for morale to just, you must have had concerts you were really looking forward to, the way these things go into the diary is just so far ahead and you think, oh, I can't, I was like, I can't wait to go to New York, you're sort of 18 months ago and then it falls away. But in a way you have to, I suppose, a positive way is looking at it that, I mean, even for me, I've been in the LSO for almost 20 years now. I've never had this amount of time to just dedicate to my own personal practice since I left college, since I was a student. So ironically, I was thinking to myself, oh, I'm playing better than I've ever played. Not that anybody knows about it, but in a way it made, I could then revisit things I'd wanted to learn or pick up things that I just had never, I'd bought music for and I'd just never had time to do. So are you trying to sort of look on it as a fairly positive kind of thing that, look, I can get another Bach sonata really well under my belt and, rather than learning things on the hop while you're traveling around and working. It sounds like you have quite a positive attitude to it.
Yeah, I think one thing is that looking at this, I mean, it's terrible for everyone that's suffering through this pandemic, but I think the silver lining is that it is in some ways a forced sabbatical for all of us. And I think in that way, if we look at it that way, then I think it becomes a very productive time because, what else are we supposed to do at this point? If we keep dwelling down on the negatives, it's just never going to end. But also the nice thing, not nice, but the thing that sort of brings me together with a lot of people, I guess, now is that we're all going through this. It's not like sometimes I personally would feel very terrible if, for example, a concert had to be canceled because, let's say, of a flight delay on my end. And that is a force majeure as well. But the sense that we're all in it together, I think in some ways is building a team. And, it sort of boils down because the music industry is, I don't know over there, but at least on my end, it can be very competitive and it can make it very tense. But I think that the idea that we're all going through the same challenges and no one is, at the end of the day, we're all going through the same things and we're all fighting for the same thing, but we all know what the challenges are. It kind of just makes us have a greater understanding that there's no need of that, of that.
On the side of that, though, interestingly enough, as you say, we're all working together. did you feel, going back to wherever, March, April time, did you feel any pressure? Because of course there was suddenly the influx of social media where everybody lost their audience, their live stage audience. And then there was the whole need to suddenly put everything online and be social and and I really felt for people who were not social media savvy and had no way to connect perhaps with their audience. And did you feel like this need that it was like, well, if I don't put something out there, I become a bit irrelevant, or I lose my kind of, because I love this idea that yes, we're all in it together, and there's been so much sharing of ideas actually, which is great. And certainly within orchestras, because we're all, we're all in the same boat. It's like, well, we're not allowed to do this and that, and people are like, well, what do you think of this, what do you think of that? Because we all want to be we all want to be back there playing and not to see any organization go under. But there was a moment when suddenly it was like Instagram just burst forth with with living room concerts from all over the globe. And did you ever feel that, gosh, this is something I really have to do, but I'm not sure I really want to?
I've always wanted to explore how I could do more on social media. I think that was one thing that I've always wished I could have more dedication of time. And I realized there's a point where it's like I can wish as hard as I want, but it's never going to come out unless I do something. And I I think I never felt pressured to post anything online, but I did feel like there was the pressure to turn off a little bit actually on social media, because there was just so many things going on. And sometimes, I had to, unfortunately, I think, turn off my one of my accounts just because it was just too much, and realized that I had to start following things that actually were personally things that I liked, which were like killer whales and polar bears. So it kind of just switched it up a little bit at least. So not everything was like, here's Paganini 13, here's Paganini 10.
Yeah.
But I think
a little bit like, in a way, I found what I found difficult first was suddenly this whole expectation where people were like, yes, I've learned a new language this week and I've done this, and it's a Paganini Caprice a day for me online. And you're just like, I'm just able to get up and have a shower and brush my hair, and I don't know if I mean you're a young person, so social media is more inbuilt into your psyche, but of course it's also a huge time trap. It's a huge time waste. It can be, you can easily find, go onto Instagram to post a video and then find an hour later you're still there, having not achieved very much. But no, I just wondered, you as a young person, how it, whether it felt, because I think at one point everybody I knew had basically said, oh, if I hear another living room concert, I'm just going to kind of like go crazy.
I think it's true. I think that there was a lot, and there still is a lot of the same stuff now. But one thing that I've realized is that actually I think classical music has been very behind in utilizing the social media and the virtual world. And, with anything, there's got to be a session of trial and error where a lot of people just post a lot of stuff. So okay, this is not going to work going forwards. But I think going forwards, when stuff starts to go back to normal, people will start to understand what is truly unique content. And the idea of being a content creator, because at the end of the day, we can apply that to live concerts as well. What exactly is interesting? How can we make ourselves unique yet staying true to ourselves? I think that is the mindset we need to go going forwards, because I'm sure you also heard that there was always this talk about how classical music is outdated, and the concept of how we program stuff is outdated and it's only reaching the older audiences. And I think that aspect will never change. But as people always mention, we're always trying to reach out to the younger audiences, but how are we doing that? I think some ways going and having this trial and error of going online is teaching us how we can communicate to people of a younger audiences, because I don't think, like, my grandma's not going on Instagram and checking me out. Well, she has Facebook now, but Facebook I know has turned into like the mature social media, right? Instagram has definitely turned into the Facebook of what it was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And even YouTube has turned into like this very established type of video. And TikTok, I mean, I've downloaded, I've yet to utilize it, but something to look into. I mean, social media can be very dangerous, I think, as well, because people have to always constantly be careful about what they post online. Both in respecting of the current events that we've been going through, but also personal stuff that you share, because it's very easy to find out where you live. It's very easy to find out what you do, how many siblings you have, and there's a certain point where you have to be tech savvy in the sense that you've got to be careful of what you share. Otherwise, you don't want to be harassed, cyberbullied. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of mean people out there, and people have a lot of time right now as well to be mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I don't know if you ever encountered anything like that.
Just I'm quite lucky. Please, nobody comment anything horrendous at me now. But I've been quite lucky. But of course, once you're out there, you open yourself up to so many things. I mean, years ago, when the LSO first put masterclasses online, and you know, we all went live out on YouTube, and I think somebody wrote, you know, under different people, so somebody wrote things like, oh, you know, my student plays better than that, and things like that. But one has to grow a thick skin.
Yeah.
To be sort of, if I ever see anything sort of not particularly pleasant, I just don't engage, because I just think, you know, chances are these people, it's this bullying which would never happen to your face, because people feel comfortable because they're faceless to do it. But it is something that, I mean, I've talked to students about actually in this time. I've done a couple of talks about how to present yourself in a marketing fashion and on social media. And it is something which, you know, you have to very much decide whether you actually want to share your personal day-to-day life with, say, your career, you know, it's something that because once you've started it, it's very hard to kind of take that back, and people find out very quickly sort of about your life. It is quite, you know, it can be quite a bit intrusive. So it is tricky. And also, well, the one thing I always say to people is just, you know, if you're not sure if it's something you should post, you probably shouldn't. If you're even saying
exactly.
that, if you're saying it to yourself, you're like, oh, I wonder if I should do that, then most likely it's not a good idea. But I like
the other
your I mean, I love your Instagram, because, you know, it feels personal without it being like, you know, here's my, you know, kind of, it's not just, you know, here I am playing a concert, you know, the pictures that everyone likes. There is an element of your personality in it as well, without being like, here I am every 5 seconds kind of thing. But sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I just realized this a couple of days ago, but like, I mean, with those people that have thousands of followers, I mean, there's constantly this battle. I don't know about you, but some of my younger colleagues and friends, they're really a bit like kind of like uptight about getting more followers and everything. But then, and I mean, it's great because it expands your network as well. But you got to realize, even if you have 5,000 followers or 3,000, you go to a concert, like how many people do you realize that are actually in the concert? It's like 2,000. That's like a lot of people, right? Imagine you have 10,000 followers all listening to your personal lives. Imagine those people with 50,000 followers. I mean, you go to a BBC Proms concert, there's 5,000 people. Think about all those people watching and reading everything that you're posting and everything. You just gotta be careful, I think. And once you put that into perspective, it's like, oh my goodness, it's a lot of pressure to. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, definitely, because you just, I don't know. I mean, for me, I know that in general, you know, the people that follow me are interested in the orchestra, because I tend to put a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and kind of, I think people like to see, we sort of live in that world which I actually hate reality TV, but we live in that world where people no longer want to just see like Timmy on stage playing his concert. They want to see the journey You know, they
Yeah.
want to see you, you know, saying, "Oh, I'm knackered at the airport. Here I am with a coffee," or, you know, "Here's the backstage. You know, here's my dress," and everyone will be like, "Oh, interesting," you know. And it's for some reason that this seems to interest people. But yes, of course, when you actually think about, you know, what you're letting letting in a way, it is something that we would never have, you know, years ago said, you know, if you were going to say, oh, you know, 5,000 people are going to know what your living room looks like, or this sort of thing,
Mm.
like, really? it's, it is a strange world, but in, you know, it has flip sides, it a lot, but
Yeah.
as I said to students also, what a great way you can actually engage with people, you know, and also say, you know, if you have a concert, you know, when I was a student, you know, I had to print out posters of your concerts and try and give them to people. At least now it's a free resource where you can
Mm-hmm.
sort of, you know, try and get people interested in your sort of product, which is
Mm-hmm.
doing concerts or something.
Mm-hmm.
But you're
Mm-hmm.
young, so you should be media savvy.
Well, it's a lot. It's a full-time job. I don't think people realize. I mean, I think people who actually do it realize how much of an effort you have to put
Mm,
into, how much work it takes to even, you know, record a 10-second clip. But I think on the outside, for people who don't do it and don't regularly post, I think people don't realize how much of a full-time job it is, how much every single small detail from who are you tagging, who are you, what are you posting on that day, you know, I think about like, what are you going to wear that day as well, how the lighting is. It's just it's a lot of work. But it has really definitely, I think, as you said on the upside, has connected me with so many people that would have been impossible even 10 years ago.
mhm.
And it has shared me across. I mean, I've met people all the way in places of the world that I didn't even know were a country, and it has opened my mind in so many ways as well. And to know that it's making their day, it's really I think in one way is during this virus and this pandemic, it's helping me go forwards as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just because you definitely like your food, don't you? Because there's always quite a lot of nice food related pictures of,
Yeah,
oh, that looks delicious or something, what you're eating when you're traveling. Obviously, we're not doing a lot of that at the
right.
moment. Um, but I just want to ask now a bit about your sort of obviously well known for having come through big violin competitions. And, you know, competitions at the moment have either been postponed or even gone online and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think um, being in violin competitions really helped establish you as an artist and helped your career to the point? Or
Mm.
someone says here, two amazing violinists. No, no,
Hey.
one amazing violinist. And just one who just does it kind of for a living.
Aw.
My hair color's looking cool. Thank you
It's
very much.
great.
It's a bit of
It's pink and green.
yeah. Well, there's blue at the back, and it's green. You know, I just thought, well, you know, whatever, whatever. Anyway, you
Yeah.
tell.
Hmm. Competitions. That's a great topic that you brought up. I think hmm, I've always been such a nerd in violin competitions. I think in the sense that I've always was copying, oh sorry, not copying. I was always following and trying to see what's out there. And I've met so many of my idols through violin competitions. So for me, because my brother also did violin competitions, and it was a great way to also explore the world and have a purpose. But I quickly realized that that's not the way that you should explore the world because you're in the worst case scenario. Like at least if you go for a concert, you can, okay, maybe a couple days, I'll stay afterwards or I'll come a bit earlier to places. But in a competition, you got to be focused. You got to be like 150% before and afterwards. If things don't turn out, unless you're someone that has the like whale thick skin, you're probably going to be at some point a little bit disappointed and it's not going to be as fun. So I
Yeah,
quickly realized like it's not the way to explore the world. I mean, you meet great people, and if you win and get a prize, then of course it changes your experiences. Then you can enjoy it. But the chances of having that situation and outcome be
yeah,
is very slim.
yeah.
In terms of how has it helped with my artistry to begin with? Hmm. I think that I did a lot of competitions when I was younger, and I would say that there were great stepping stones, and it definitely helped me understand this world of competitions. And I don't, do I think it's necessary at a younger age? I don't think it's vital. If you want to do it for a goal, I think that's great. But to be really worked up about winning a competition when you're 18 or 19, I think you can let it rest a little bit, because there are so many things when you're in that age that I think you need to develop. And one way, just looking at my own past, is that when I did the Hanover competition and Queen Elizabeth when I was 24 and 25, that really, I think, was the best time in my personal development to do them. And it was also good because I had learned a good chunk of repertoire by then. I had a lot of performing experiences by then, so I was still very nervous to do both of those competitions, but I could always reference back, oh, this is like a very much more intense version of a concert. And therefore, I treated every round as a very high profile concert that's being recorded. And it's a better mindset, because once you start understanding how the music industry works, your hopes of what you expect to come out of competition also changes. So I know a lot of my colleagues, they're like, oh, I got to win this competition because then it's going to set me up for everything. But actually, I think when you go to a competition, you can only expect so much, because there are so many competitions going out there. There are so many young players going out there. What one international competition does, I think, is, yeah, it gives you some new opportunities to play with orchestras that you would have never had played with. But if anything, I've noticed that it has strengthened things that or organizations that I've had relationships with. So example, like back in my hometown or home country with the National Arts Center Orchestra, Montreal Symphony, in some ways it gives them just constant updates, which I've had a long relationship with. So in the career side and artistic side, I think artistry, in sense of artistry, it just allows you to really explore how you want to play on stage. Because I think there are some ways, I don't know, there's always that one version of a competition where you're like, you got to play perfectly and you got to play that you don't offend anyone. But are you going to actually do that? Like, do you want to actually play lukewarm? Or do you actually want to develop your sense of personality and then present that on stage and then have that record online? That's at least how I wanted to play that piece. And then I've seen so many of my colleagues that have not even passed the first round, but have wonderful careers compared to people who have won first, second, third prize. And I think it's two sides. It's two tales of a story. You have one side where it's a flash in the pan and everyone wants you to play with their orchestras, but then it stops. Or you have that one person that doesn't really ever win a competition, but is always constantly building and building and building. And their career is much longer and they can enjoy and breathe as well. Because once you win a competition, you're obligated to do all of these debuts and engagements.
Right.
And if you're not, exactly. And if you've never had that experience, then you're going to be overwhelmed and burnt out very quickly. And that's one thing that I've noticed about people who have done a competition and won or ranked very high at the top and not have any of this experience before, to build up their repertoire, to build up their confidence on stage, the pressure of learning and picking up music at a very quick amount of time, which can only happen if you've learned that piece before. So, yeah, I think that's...
a lot of love coming through on the comments for you, Timmy. So, yeah, I don't know, students here, someone loves your eyes. This is lovely. But amazing attitude to have, because so much about people going into competitions, it's always like, oh, I've got to win and stuff. But I know people who've come out top who don't particularly have careers, and other people who didn't, and then they've gone on to have a great career. So I think if you go into it looking at it as being a great experience and having a chance to learn a lot of repertoire, and with that kind of attitude, I think it's so much better, because it doesn't guarantee you anything once, I suppose, all those engagements that you kind of win, once they're over, it's more about sustaining, and hopefully, I mean, it must be fun in that, you get probably, I imagine if you're on a kind of competition circuit, you kind of see this. I know from conductors who've done conducting competitions, and they, you know, they're like, oh, you know, same people you're kind of bumping into, and in a way it ends up being quite well, a bit sociable, I suppose. Everyone's going off to practice, but I think that's a really great attitude to have. And do you think you had such a mature way of viewing things because of having an older brother pretty much in doing the same things, but just slightly ahead of you?
Yeah, definitely. My brother is a few years older than I am, and he did a lot of that competition route earlier. And has it influenced me? I think he gave me a lot of advice, especially for Queen Elizabeth. He was just like, just expect that when you go into the chapelle, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and don't worry about it, and everything's going to be okay. So that just gave me a lot of comfort, and I got to play for him a lot as well. So, and the support, I think, was just one of the biggest things that I could, that really helped my spirit keep going on. And I think the maturity of just doing it a little bit older definitely helped a lot as well, just to be on stage and be confident. And yeah, I think especially when you're doing a competition that you have a purpose to do, changes the whole playing field. Because I know, especially when I was younger, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this competition because everyone else is doing it, so therefore I don't want to be missing out. But then with these competitions I did, I was like, I've always wanted to go and do this competition, and the repertoire fits really well. What are the results? What are some of the things that the past winners have done to go on? Do I like how they've developed their careers as well? And how can it benefit me also going forward? So in that sense, when it becomes a strategic part of your career development, I think that changes the whole playing field compared to just doing it because everyone else is doing it and because it's the newest thing out there. Or I know some people say, oh, I'm going to do this competition because I know that some people are going to be doing this competition, therefore this one might be like a lower level, so I'm going to be a better situated. It's like kind of like that, but once it's kind of it's a game. Yeah, it's a puzzle. So once you're just doing it for the purpose of actually doing it and it fits with your artistic endeavor, just do it, I think. And another thing is that I know on the other flip side is that some people are just too scared to even apply when they really should. So don't be afraid to apply, I think. I do feel for a lot of these people right now who are not able to do competitions, and I know a lot of them are being postponed into 2022 at this rate, yeah, I just really feel for them. But, you just gotta keep it up. And I mean, the whole world is changing. I think the industry will be a different place afterwards. Competitions might have a different purpose. Organizations will have a different view of how they want to go forwards. I think in some ways, with every recession of some sorts of a world event, the music industry is no exception to that. There's going to be a difference in changes of how concerts are going to be held and so forth. And a lot more things will be virtual.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously lots of things have had to, whole seasons have gone online. We're looking at that for our next season as well. And, the LSO's only managed, well, I did a duo concert the other day, which had indoor audience only. It's a very different, we're chartering different kind of waters at the moment. We have no idea where it's all going to end up. I mean, I have to say, I really miss the traveling at the moment. And of course, we first met in New York. That right? Yeah, that's right. Because obviously my good friend Sarah Chang said to me, "There's this really lovely young violinist, called Timmy, and he's so sweet and everything." And you obviously being from the same kind of city. And I thought, oh, well, I mean, I remember she said to me, oh, he's really shy. And I thought, oh God, he's going to be really hard to talk to then. we met up, and I was wearing a violin dress, and you were in like a violin shirt.
Yeah.
You must have looked like complete and utter violin geeks. And I'm like, oh, you're very chatty. So that was like, I do really miss going to the US, I have to say. Obviously, having friends there and, performing in New York and places like that. So that's, are there places that you were supposed to go to and you just think, oh, I was really looking forward to that. I guess in the summer as well, that would have been a lot of festival time for you.
Yes, I was supposed to go. I was actually supposed to spend almost from May to August all in Europe, and that was like a big event because I was thinking, oh, I'm going to go to Europe for like 3 or 4 months because everything was in Germany. It was Verbier. It was in France. I never really performed there before. And I was going to take my mom, going to take my dad, and they were going to come and take a vacation there and watch me play. So yeah, that was kind of the big plan. So I do miss going to Europe, especially having gone there so often over the past 2 years.
Yeah,
but,
you were in last summer. You were in London last summer, Albert Hall, I remember.
Yeah, and that's where we met for coffee as well.
Yeah.
So I do miss going there, but comes to I don't know. It's going to be weird going back to Europe. I feel a little bit anxious just even going outside sometimes, and yeah, it's just going to be a whole different world. I mean, I miss it, but also I understand, and things are being. I mean, the nice thing is that people are postponing, or at least honoring, all of these engagements, and it does build time also for me to come up with better ideas of programming. I think that's one thing I've always wanted to work on, and I think we're going to have to be creative going forwards, and kind of just perfect about how we want to be portrayed on stage. So I don't know. That's why I really wanted to go, was to Europe.
Oh yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, when you kind of have a big plan. I mean, most of my summer actually was going to be abroad as well, but yeah, it's all the sort of small things that were just normal, like playing concerts, getting on a plane, going, airports and stuff, now feel so alien. I can't imagine being on a flight, and anybody I know who is, I'm sort of like, oh, it's kind of like totally seems like something that I just can't really imagine. So it's amazing how quickly the world has shrunk, but in a way, you're right. It gives us a chance to reflect on things that you might not have had the chance to before, whether it's learning new music and thinking about different kinds of programming. I mean, I was lucky. I managed to have a composer write. I thought it would be good to have a piece that was written during lockdown for 2 violins, and it's also quite hard to find music for 2 violins. And in a way, there's, you think, well, people have been creative at this time. Let's kind of give them some kind of platform to show it as well. And, that's, at the moment, as you say, with musicians just trying to help other musicians, because, everybody's in the same boat. Everybody just wants to get out there, share their music and play, and what else, can be done. So you've stayed just put in Philadelphia at this time. Yeah,
I've just been in one place, and it's been hot. That's one thing I've been realizing now. It's so hot here, and just even going out for a walk, it's like I don't really want to go out for a walk because it's like 37 degrees Celsius today, and it's just like and it's humid. Yeah, I started doing this thing where, so in my apartment building, I have a lot of music fans that go to the Philadelphia Orchestra, and they are like, oh man, I was going to go to Saratoga because they play there every year, and I'm going to watch them play at the outdoor concerts. So we have a terrace out here, and I played for like 3 people at a time.
Oh no, that's so
Yeah, and I got like this super cheap violin, which I bought on Amazon, which is like $60, which I take up there. It's not the greatest sound, but it's, you got to adapt because I can't bring my real instrument out there. It's too hot. So yeah, just being creative and all of these outdoor concerts. And you've been to Rittenhouse Square. Have you been to that nice square in downtown?
In Philly? Probably not, no.
Okay. Yeah, it's right in front of the Curtis Institute of Music, and there's this really nice kind of garden, and I went out there one time and just played for like half an hour, and there was automatically just people just standing at least 6 feet apart from each other, and they're like, oh my goodness, I haven't heard the sound of a violin since 3 months ago.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny, isn't it? This kind of
Yeah.
just to say, if anyone's got a question for Timmy, we've got about 15 minutes, so pop it into the comments. If you've got any burning questions about anything,
Mhm.
do pop it there, and I'll
Mm.
ask him for you. Yeah, it's amazing how everyone just turned so much to culture, whether it was watching concerts online, theatre, and stuff like that. And I
Mhm.
went to play in a garden for a friend. It was meant to be like two or three friends who had actually renovated an entire church garden from nothing
Mm.
to like beautiful garden. And I thought it was going to be like two or three people, and sort of turned out, and it was like, and it ended up being so many people dotted around, and I thought, oh gosh, that's a bit scary. But it was amazing how people are so desperate to have music with just live seeing people, and it was one of the most
Mm.
experiences. I'm not going to pronounce who the person is. Woo 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 woo. What mic do you use for recording yourself? This is the point. This is going to be interesting for me because I don't have anything.
Yeah, I don't actually use anything special. I actually just use my phone separately from what I record on my camera, and then
Okay.
I used a program called Audacity or GarageBand, and I edit it because there's a setting where you can put it into like what is it called? Acoustical instruments. So what it does is it unequalizes it because what it
Oh,
does, on the phone it tends to make everything
those
flat, but it
messages.
still has. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it still has the waveform, so it can kind of bring out the highs and the lows, and that's what I do. Then I sync the audio with my footage.
Finish. Oh, that's
Yeah.
excellent. That's brilliant.
Mm.
And then we have Melissa says, I have terrible stage fright. Hey, we've all been there. What do you recommend doing to be more confident on stage?
Record yourself.
Oh, does that make you feel
Yeah.
better about? Okay.
Yeah, because I think that okay. Here's the thing. I put it in different tiers. So for me, playing by myself in a room, not
Mhm.
so nervous. Playing for my mom, a little bit more nervous, but not so nervous. Playing
Okay.
for a live audience, yeah, I get nervous. Playing for a live audience that's also being recorded, it's like the max, I think. So if you take the element of recording yourself, I think that just makes you so self-aware because not only is another eye looking at you, but it's recording every single action you do. So once you overcome that fear, I think then it becomes a step down to play for a live audience because
Oh,
you already
that's
know exactly, yeah, you can visualize everything. You can visualize what you need to take more time, how you're going to look like. Because I think when you go on stage, the thing that makes me nervous is I don't know exactly how I'm being perceived by the audience.
hmm Okay. That's really good. Yeah. I could have done with that last week because the concert was audience and live streamed as well. So that's a good, yeah, that sort of just gives you that element of and I just think also you just have to, it's all about remembering that you're meant to be kind of bringing joy to people, and people want you to really enjoy it and play well. Everyone's just kind of, it's not about people sitting there thinking, I hope this all goes wrong. I think it's just flipping a switch so that it doesn't become an anxious feeling. It's
Mhm.
just to actually think, I'm gonna just enjoy myself, and people are just going to have to like it. Someone
Mhm.
says
Mhm.
here, what if you get ill before the concert? Have you ever had to um, sort of pull out of concerts, or do you just,
Mm.
and if you had to just go on when you had food poisoning or something?
Yeah, I have two stories about that. So the first one was actually right after I did the Hanover competition. I was doing my master's degree at the time, so I had to like, rush back to New York, and I was like, okay, I finished this concert. I'm gonna take the first flight out at 6 a.m. So I ran into the airport. I mean, not physically, but like my host friend was like speeding, and I was like, calm down a little bit. So she went over there and dropped me off, and then I went to class that same day that I arrived back from Germany, and I think I started to get a little sick because I didn't have enough rest. It was really stressful. And I was like, oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And I kept pushing myself because I had to catch up on all these work that I didn't have, and kept rolling and rolling. Then I had to go to California to play a concert, early flight, first flight, last flight of the day, out there, first flight back. Then I had my first confirmed concert out of the competition, which was in Germany. So I played a concert, I remember. And then I took a flight on the same night at 11 p.m., flew over to Amsterdam, took a train, came back. I got really sick by then. I think I was getting to the point where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm getting really sick. Couldn't hear out of my left ear or my right ear at that point. And I went to the hospital. It's terrible when you're sick outside of your home country because you don't exactly know how the system works. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what medicine. You can't speak the language, even though they can speak English. The system and vocabulary is different. And then I went on stage and I played my concert. I was basically like on finger memory at that point because luckily all the repertoire was the same from the competition. So I was like, okay, I could do it once under pressure. Let's see how it works out now. And actually, at the time, my good friend Alex from Switzerland came over. He's like, you look terrible. What's wrong with you? I was like, oh, yeah, I know. I look terrible. So then I arrived. I took the flight back. And I was like, oh, I can't hear anything out of my left ear. And I landed into New York, JFK airport. And my dad picked me up because I was really sick. So he said, let me pick you up. So he drove up from Philadelphia. And I was like, oh, I really feel really, really bad. So I went into Mount Sinai Hospital to get checked. And they're like, oh, you have the precursors of pneumonia, first of all. Because I was like, I couldn't breathe. And also, I couldn't hear my left ear. I had an infection at the same time. And they put me on this oxygen. So I stayed overnight. And I was like, oh, my goodness. I had a concert, another one from the competition, which was supposed to be in Korea. I had to cancel that. So this is why I'm really sympathetic, I guess, to the situation of what's happening now, because without a healthy body, you're wasted. I mean, you can't do anything. Absolutely. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
And I know it's really hard, especially if you've never got sick or you've never had the choice of your health or a concert. You got to always choose the health first, because if I've learned from the past that if I keep pushing myself and not even just take a break to heal, it's going to get to a point where it's going to be literally life or death. So it's not worth it at that point.
Burnout, yeah. Oh, someone says here, when you're practicing and when you started out, did you pay special attention to keeping your wrists soft and gentle? I noticed that about your playing, somebody says. So you've obviously got an extremely good bow arm. Is that something that you've always had?
Yeah, I studied with Mr. Pinka Zuckerman since I was 11 years old, and he's a sticker about how you have to use your collet and finger movement and finger motion. And I was so drawn into that, and I went to his summer programs every summer since then, and we worked on that. And that was something I always admired about how easy Mr. Zuckerman always had his right arm. And that's really just been one thing that I've kept
from him. Oh, I see. And have you ever had a strings break in concerts?
Yes, I had a string break in a concert I did. It was I was playing Bruch violin concerto. I just switched with the concertmaster, and it was pretty seamless. I was pretty prepared for it at that point, mentally at least. The funniest story that I have was actually at Juilliard when I was doing my concertmaster audition, and I remember I was so nervous because I never had done any sort of this kind of orchestral audition, and I prepared all my excerpt, Don Juan, I had practiced on Had 11, everything, my Mozart, and then they're like, okay, can you start with the first movement of the Mozart concerto? And for some reason, I had a flashback of you, actually. You were the first person that I ever heard prepare a Mozart. I didn't even know you have to prepare Mozart concertos for an orchestral audition, but every time I think of preparing Mozart for a concert, I remember just you from that London Symphony Orchestra, YouTube Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah, my video on YouTube, still there. Yeah,
and I still watch it. And I watched it. I watched it before auditioning. It's because it is so different than just playing it for a concert or even a concerto competition. Because I was like, yeah, you said you have to like breathe and give a rhythm already. I was like, oh my goodness, all the things going through.
You've got such a short window of time to prove yourself. There's no moment. You can't. No warming up into it. It's you're getting the exposition and the cadenza if you're lucky. So
exactly. Yeah. So I remember I went into that room in Juilliard, and they're like, can you play the first movement of Mozart? So I started. La, do, and then my E string breaks.
on the quiet moments, gosh.
Yeah, and then everybody on the jury was just like, okay, like go back. I was there sweating because I was also not ready to play all of these excerpts. Like never played them before, so I was like quickly turning everything, and then I came back, and then like my E string kept falling down. It was a disaster, but yeah, it was a big learning experience.
Christina says, have you got any hints for sweaty hands if you're playing? If she gets sweaty hands, I don't know, or you know, I don't know. I just rub mine against my clothes.
I've heard there's two types of people. The one that either gets very dry, cold hands, that gets very clammy, and the other one that gets very hot and sweaty, and it just gets this. You just slide everywhere. I have the former, so my hands get very cold and clammy. Actually,
get sweaty hands.
Yeah, I don't know. I think do I have a friend that did that? I think they just said they constantly have to wash their hands, especially before going on stage.
Before you go on stage, I'd say really cold water if you've got sweaty hands, as close to the time that you're going on as well. And somebody's got really cold hands. Any tips on that?
Don't wash your hands.
Hot water bottle. You can get
actually,
warmer things.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep those on you.
Yeah, my suggestion is actually doing a lot of exercises, like some sort of stretching exercises, because basically you're not having a blood flow.
Yeah.
And don't wash your hands too close before going on stage. That's what I've learned. If I wash my hands and I have clammy hands, I can't feel the fingertips of my fingers.
Oh, okay, but at this time of COVID, keep washing your hands, people.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're not performing anyway, so.
So we've got 4 minutes left. Someone says, have you got any confirmed dates coming up for concerts? Any things that are definitely still in the diary that you think will happen?
Yeah. So everything in the diary, at least in North America, is canceled until December. So that, for me, is canceled. But there are some pockets of stuff in Europe that are still, up in the air. The first one is in Belgium, the opening concert with the Belgian National Orchestra. I don't know how that's going to happen at this point. I've been in contact with the people who are working there. They're like, things are going pretty good, but then just a few days ago, the cases started to rise again. So that's kind of up in the air. And then the other one is supposed to be a big tour with the Russian National Orchestra, which I don't know what's going on right now. They haven't canceled, but I don't know what's going on right now at this point. But other than that, everything's going to be online.
Yeah, everything's very fluid at the moment. Someone's asking, are you planning to make a live on these days? I don't know if they mean, are you going to do an Instagram live by playing or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, if I have enough requests, why not?
Yeah, I can request you now to,
Okay.
Can you do that for us soon?
Okay.
Someone says, have you ever experienced right hand shaking on stage? So that's bow arm, isn't it? Yeah, I think we've experienced that.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yes, that's quite common. Oh, I just thinking about it.
And it's actually weird because I feel like you can never exactly find a solution for your nerves. At least if you have, someone please comment and tell me how. But it's like sometimes you do every single thing perfectly. You wake up perfectly, exactly. You had a good night's rest. You eat properly. You didn't warm up too much, but had enough. You go on stage and you're nervous as you can never imagine yourself being. And other days you had the most disastrous day. You went to the embassy, nothing's happening. You miss your train. You forgot to you call someone. You go on stage, you're not even nervous.
I know. It's to be honest, it's about just I don't know. I don't know what I do either particularly, but it is very random. But I just tell myself it's not the end of the world and just try and breathe through it. Now, we've only got a minute left, so maybe we should at some point do another one and carry on with, literally make it a Q&A, because I think a lot of people love hearing what you have to say. But thank you so much, Timmy. This has been so fascinating to hear all about what, you think about competitions and what you've been up to. And, you're looking well, the hair's,
Yeah, it went down because it's so humid now. So yeah, I mean, thanks so much for having me, Maxine. And for all of you viewers out there, if you ever have any questions, feel free to message either of us, I guess.
Yeah, of course. No, please do stay in touch. We'd love to see you play. So do at some point do a live where you're playing. We'd love that. And I hope maybe we should do a part 2 with lots of questions and answers.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Bye,
So
Maxine.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you. You too.
Bye.